This is an audiobook. The Book of Spiritual Change uncovers an ancient truth. Transition is not chaos, but divine order that unfolds as you listen. You'll remember that every change in your life represents a universe directing you toward your actual power. Embrace or participate in the transformation. Your spirit is reborn. The Book of Spiritual Change. Introduction. In the calm caverns of your heart, there is an old memory, a silent understanding that awakens whenever life begins to change. The universe itself communicates through these shifts, whispering its timeless wisdom with each ending and new dawn. As these words reach you, they evoke a memory. You have always been a part of a larger becoming. What you hold is more than just a book. It is a living river of wisdom lessons passed down through generations by individuals who have walked a hidden road of change. They return now, when the planet is on the verge of new consciousness, calling forth souls willing to ascend into a higher light. Change is a sacred river that shapes the landscape of your existence. It dissolves the stone of the old self, creating channel for fresh life to flow. When you oppose it, you will suffer. When you yield, you are carried by grace. Consider a butterfly. Its flight occurs only once the caterpillar has entirely surrendered to the mystery of transformation. You must also trust the divine intellect that exists inside you, because it is transforming you into someone you were not before. The ancients understood that change is not an intruder, but rather the pulse of creation itself. The tides, the stars, and the breath in your chest all move to the same timeless rhythm. You too are a part of that beautiful harmony. These words are a link between worlds. What was and what remains to be. They are not merely read, but felt, echoing through the deepest recesses of your spirit. As you listen and recall, you enter the eternal stream that has guided many spirits to awaken. You're not here by chance. Your spirit, rather than your mind, has selected the hour of transition. It recognizes a frequency. The appeal of the Book of Spiritual Change lies in the music of its own becoming. But first, please like and let me know where you're watching from today. It's always exciting to see who joins us from across the world. Part 1 of the season of Becoming. Chapter 1. The First Shift in Awareness. Daisy, who lived in a village surrounded by ancient hills, went to the river at sunrise, as she had done numerous times before. However, something changed today. The familiar waters that had faithfully duplicated her reflection suddenly revealed a stranger, not in form, but in substance. The face staring back contained questions she had never dared to ask, revealing truths she had long avoided seeing. This moment of recognition represents the beginning of spiritual transformation. When the familiar becomes foreign, consciousness begins to rise. Like Daisy beside the river, you must first observe that your reflection has changed before you can comprehend what that shift means. This observation is not accidental. It is a divine intellect within you that creates opportunities for advancement. The rule of awareness states that transformation cannot take root in unconscious soil. Just like a seed needs the dirt to crack open before it can sprout, your spirit must first break through the shell of old beliefs. This opening frequently manifests as discomfort, a gradual realization that something no longer fits quite properly. Clyde lived in a calm valley far from Daisy's river, and his voice was sweet as morning dew. Each day offered events that would have previously elicited old reactions, angry words, snap judgments, and defensive barriers. However, Clyde discovered a new technique to harness the force of the interval between trigger and response. He found that tranquility would enter like light through a newly opened window. In contrast, previously, he would rush to fill the quiet with familiar patterns. Clyde learned to rest in the realm of consciousness. Each pause became a portal. Each instant constrained a ribbon of grace that did not force change or struggle against itself. He merely noticed, and the noticing piece began to choose him. Clyde's experience shows a hidden fact regarding transformations. It starts with attentiveness, not force, much like a flower turning toward the sun. Awareness inherently attracts you towards growth. The idea is not to change yourself, but to remain present to what is already changing. These stories reveal an ageless truth before the butterfly emerges. Something within the caterpillar must first realize its own capacity for flight. Your discontent is not your adversary. The first light of dawn breaks through the night's curtain. Sacred practice. Find a peaceful moment today and situate yourself in front of any reflective surface, such as a mirror, a window, or still water. Allow yourself to notice what happens in your heart. Notice, without judgment, the feelings that rise to meet your sight. Breathe deeply and softly. Say these words: I'm meeting my new self. Allow awareness to serve as your teacher, guide, and catalyst for transformation during this moment of witnessing. Change is already underway in response to the wind of opposition. In a village where time appeared to stand still, there lived a woman named Nora, who kept a garden down through the centuries. Each morning, she would fight the stubborn weeds that threatened her meticulously ordered rows of roses and herbs. Her neighbors watched as she spent many hours pulling, pruning, and defending against nature's wild attempts to regain the land. These weeds will not take anything that belongs to me, she'd mutter with white knuckles while holding her gardening equipment. However, with each weed she eradicated, 3 others appeared to sprout in its place. The harder she fought, the more fatigued she was, until her favorite garden began to feel more like a war than a sanctuary. You see, life beckons you to change. Resistance exacerbates the difficulty. Your grip on what was causes a strain that fosters suffering. The universe goes through periods of rejuvenation, death and rebirth, releasing and receiving. When you stick to outdated forms, you are up against the very energy that seeks to bring you new abundance. Benet lived in a nearby valley, and his land was bordered by an antique fence that had crumbled mainly over the years. He had propped it up and repaired it piece by piece. His grandpa had set the barrier, and he was convinced it was necessary to keep it. One fall morning, after a storm had knocked down a significant part, Benny finally gave in to the inevitable. As he started clearing away the worn boards, his eyes opened with surprise. Behind the barrier he had so meticulously maintained, a gorgeous patch of wildflowers had been growing hidden. Nature's gift. I'm waiting patiently for his acceptance. This truth has endured through the centuries. What you oppose endures, but what you embrace transforms. The changes you fear frequently contain the seeds of unexpected blessings. Your resistance does not protect you. It disrupts the rhythm of life's renewal. Just as a tree must shed its leaves to make way for fresh growth, you too need to learn the art of sacred surrender. The cosmos never removes something without first creating space for greater alignment. What appears to be a loss on the surface is actually an invitation to greater abundance. The ancient technique of releasing. When you sense yourself fighting change, find some peaceful time alone. Place your palm over your heart and take 3 deep breaths, then slowly exhale. Speak the words of strength. Nothing is leaving me that I still need. Allow your breath to carry away the strain from holding on. Feel the soft wind blowing around you. Imagine it as the universe's caring hand. Organize your life with enormous wisdom and care. Trust that this moment of surrender marks your emergence into greater completeness. Chapter 3. The dance between letting go and receiving took place in a sunlit attic that had accumulated dust for decades, surrounded by pyramids of cardboard boxes, each loaded with reminders of the past. Her hands trembled as she opened the first container, revealing faded photographs, tattered books, and treasured objects that previously characterized her world. She released each item. A strange lightness flooded her chest, as the act of letting go made way for something new to breathe. The universe operates on an ancient concept of emptiness and fullness, much like a cup that must be emptied before it can receive fresh water. New experiences cannot enter your life until you make sacred space. When you cling to the past, you unintentionally restrict the future. This inherent resistance binds you to shores you've outgrown. The process of releasing does not involve loss. It's about invitations. Each time you willingly let go of anything that is no longer useful, you signal to the universe that you are ready for rejuvenation. This is not a coincidence, but a cosmic law. Nature despises a vacuum, and life rushes to fill empty places with new possibilities along the peaceful docks of a coastal town. Roger stood at his ancient sailboat, brushing his hand over the familiar hull one final time. For 20 years, this sailboat had served as his escape, pride, and steady friend through innumerable sunsets. As he handed over the keys to the new owner, a deep pain of anguish struck his heart. However, within weeks, his feet led him to mountain pathways he hadn't observed before. The crisp air and towering peaks stirred something in his spirit that the sea had never touched. Roger's experience highlights the hidden blessings of surrender. What looks to be lost is often a disguised transformation. The universe never eliminates without providing something better in return. However, you must first prepare the environment to receive it. Your attachments, whether to objects, people, or beliefs, are neither good nor bad. They define the boundaries of your current experience. When you oppose change, you are resisting life itself. However, when you connect with its fluid nature, unexpected doors arise. The skill is not in forcing yourself to let go, but in knowing that the release itself is a grace. Ancient practice of holy release. Choose one object, thought, or memory that you have outgrown, but continue keeping your awareness with careful attention. Recognize how it once served you, appreciating its role in your journey, and then use focused intention. Be blessed and release it freely. As you let it go, whisper, "I create space for new benefits." Let the empty slot stay unfilled, trusting in the universe's proper timing. Chapter 4, The Shape of Flow. In a seaside community where weather patterns fluctuated like moods, Lillian had been diligently planning her outdoor art gallery launch for months. Every element was meticulously planned, including the placement of paintings, the timing of speeches, and the selection of wine. But as morning broke on the designated day, dark clouds formed with unexpected fury. The relentless rain threatened to wipe away her dreams. Your tendency in such situations may be to resist, to push back against what is happening. But behind every seeming disorder lurks a hidden river of kindness. When you let go of your expectations for how things should be, you find how they may be. Lillian, rather than fighting the storm, she elected to relocate her gallery to an abandoned lighthouse nearby. The spiral staircase offered natural viewing levels, and thunder produced a dramatic atmosphere. The rain-streaked windows formed ethereal patterns on her canvases, creating an image she could not have predicted. What appeared to be a disaster turned into magic because of her willingness to flow. The universe communicates through synchronicity, or seemingly random events that redirect your path every time you relinquish your rigid plans to its greater wisdom. You align with a power that transcends your limited perspective. This is not passive acceptance, but active participation in the divine flow of existence. Young Ernest sat in his modest workshop for hours painting spirals, enthralled by their natural flow. Each curve followed the previous one without force or hesitancy. He saw that attempting to make them flawless made them stiffer, whereas allowing his hand to move freely gave them an organic beauty that spoke of life itself. Your trip follows Ernest's spirals, not in straight lines or perfect circles, but in flowing arcs that respect both movement and rest. When you reject the natural rhythm, you create tension in the field of limitless possibilities. However, when you move in tune with the river of life, grace replaces strife. The wisdom traditions refer to this as one-way action through non-action effort, or ease. It is the art of swimming with the tide rather than against it, of seeing that the universe's movement always leads to greater expansion and harmony. The ancient practice of sacred flow. Find a peaceful area where you will not be disturbed. Close your eyes and see a perfectly shaped leaf floating on the sea. Notice how it neither fights nor directs the current, but he places his trust in the waters. Wisdom. Feel yourself transforming into this leaf. Surrender to the flow of life. With each breath, let go of the impulse to control your direction. Whisper, I trust the river to carry me, where light awaits. Allow this vision to serve as a reminder that the universe's flow is always for your highest good. Chapter 5. Breaking the Patterns. Spell in the busy town plaza. Hazel sat at the same cafe table where 3 separate relationships had come to an end. Each time, the words changed, but the emotion stayed constant. A familiar anguish of being unnoticed, unheard, and overlooked. As she traced the wood grain patterns on the table's surface, wisdom began to rise within her heart. When life confronts you with recurrent problems, it encourages you to dig deeper. These patterns are not coincidences, but rather holy invitations to explore the ideas that define your reality. Like water flowing through invisible channels, your experiences follow the paths formed by your deepest beliefs about yourself and the world. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, will continue to teach the same lesson in several forms until you identify the mirror it holds before you. Each recurring experience holds a message that can be grasped via peaceful mindfulness rather than analysis. For 7 years, Amos had begun his mornings with the same routine: coffee, newspaper, and toast. He chose to take tea one day, without any strategy or purpose. This tiny departure resulted in a rippling effect. He felt more alert, spoke more freely with his neighbor, and saw the early light differently through the simple act of making a different choice. He sensed the bliss of freedom, which is constantly present in each instant. Your patterns of power only via repetition. Every time you venture outside of their usual confines, even in the smallest way, you remind yourself that you are not limited by habit or history. The cosmos reacts instantaneously to these slight alterations in consciousness, realigning reality to meet your new vibration. Imagine consciousness as a large ocean, with your patterns acting as currents within it. You do not need to battle against these currents. Simply selecting to swim slightly left or right results in a completely unique trajectory. This is the art of breaking conscious patterns without using force, but rather by making compassionate choices. The ancient practice of pattern freedom. Choose one small deed today and do it differently. Consider taking an alternate route to work. Meet someone before they meet you, or appreciate each mouthful of food with renewed interest as you make this unusual decision. Whisper to yourself, I choose freedom in this moment. Consider how the universe reacts to this shift in energy, opening up new avenues of possibility. This simple act of conscious choice sends ripples across the fabric of your reality, allowing new patterns to emerge. 6. Time and transformation. Clara stood before her worn family photos in the early morning light. Each image represented a thread that connected her to what was. For years, she had followed the same recollections, allowing yesterday's shadows to fade. Today's light. But something changed in her perception this morning as she looked at a snapshot of her younger self. Clara saw how the sunshine reflected off its surface, forming a prism of possible ease. In that instant, she recognized time was not a fixed line, but rather a fluid dance of awareness. The past existed only in her mind's grip, whilst the present moment gleamed with unrealized possibilities. Clara's enlightenment provides a glimpse of fundamental reality. Time is not a prison, but rather a portal. The present moment serves as an eternal portal through which all transformation occurs. When you focus your attention on the present moment, you'll notice that each breath is a new start, free of the baggage of the past. The ability to modify your experience rests not in changing the past, but in releasing its grip on your current awareness. Much like water flowing around rocks, consciousness naturally gravitates toward liberation when we stop grasping at what was. Henry's story exemplifies this knowledge. For decades, he bore the weight of an ancient hatred, a betrayal that influenced every subsequent relationship. One afternoon, while caring for his garden, Henry watched a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis, leaving behind only its shell. In that beautiful moment, he realized that holding on to previous hurt was like forcing a butterfly back into its cocoon. Tears were flowing down his face. Henry murmured words of forgiveness into the peaceful air, not because the past deserved forgiveness, but because his heart desired peace. Years of collected tension flowed away from his shoulders as he spoke. The future, previously murky with old resentments, began to gleam with fresh possibilities. The message makes it clear that healing is happening right now. Yesterday's wounds cannot be healed, but their influence on your current experience fades in the light of conscious knowledge. Each moment presents an opportunity to carry forward the weight of what was, or to stand empty and open to what could be. When you let go of memories, the quality of your being is shaped by your relationship with time. Pain. You release energy that was previously locked up in regret and resistance. This release opens up space for fresh life to emerge. Practice. Sit in a quiet place and whisper inwardly. Only now is it real. Feel the weight of yesterday. Fall away as you live in endless newness. Allow each breath to take you deeper into the present now, where all possibilities exist. Chapter 7. The Mirror of Emotion. In a small coastal village, Pearl lived each day according to her moods, allowing them to paint her world in various hues. When joy flooded her heart, the waters shone with possibility. Strangers felt like buddies waiting to be discovered. But as melancholy set in, the same waters became gloomy and ominous. She was unable to contact familiar faces when they became distant shores throughout the seasons. Pearl noticed how her inner state influenced the reality before her. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, was utilizing her emotions as a sacred compass to point to more profound truths within. Your emotions are not foes to be defeated or defects to be repaired. They are divine messengers who transmit wisdom about your harmony with universal flow. Much like water flowing through a stream, when emotions are allowed to flow unhindered, they naturally shift and change. Each feeling serves as a teacher, showing you where your energy is now located. When you judge a feeling as incorrect or try to push it away, you disrupt the natural cycle of energy that flows through you. This causes stagnation, much like a dam restricting a river's flow. However, by accepting each feeling as information, as valuable input from the cosmos itself, you allow the tide of life to flow freely. Again in the market, one morning, Samuel sat with his sadness rather than running from it, allowing it to exist without needing to be changed or fixed. Something spectacular happened. The heaviness in his heart began to ease and expand, giving way to a gentle understanding of others who carried similar problems. His willingness to experience transformed the alchemist's pain into compassion. This reality reverberates throughout time. Emotions are energy in motion. They want to move through you, not define you. When you resist, they persist. When you welcome them with curiosity, they disclose their abilities and naturally evolve. Your emotions are like weather patterns in the sky of consciousness. They pass through, but they do not constitute the sky itself. Clouds cannot damage the vast blue expanse above. No emotion can alter your fundamental character. Each one arrives as a fleeting visitor, conveying a message about your relationship with the present moment. Practice. Settle into a quiet location and become aware of any powerful emotions you may be experiencing. Name it aloud in a friendly tone. I see you in anger or in grief. You are here. Thank you for showing you where your energy is now flowing without attempting to modify it. Observe the sensation with gentle curiosity. Notice how simply noting its presence causes it to change shape. Allow it to teach you its wisdom before it naturally transforms, as all things do. Chapter 8. Seeds of Intention. In the heart of a valley, the morning mist persisted like unrealized dreams. Irene cultivated her garden with the same care that she gave to her innermost ambitions. Each spring, she would meticulously select sunflower seeds, preparing the soil with intention before planting in the ground as she worked. Her views would accord with the natural law of development, which states that what is grown with certainty and maintained with delight would surely come to the light. The cosmos responds to your clear goal in the same way that soil responds to well-tended seeds. When you plant your wishes in the fertile ground of consciousness, they will develop with the care and conviction you supply. This is the path of spiritual law. As said above, so below. As within, so without your thoughts or seeds, the feeling you have from them affects their vitality. Half-formed wishes rooted in doubt will only produce scattered results. Wallace learned this truth when his lukewarm intentions yielded similarly mediocre results. He would say, "Maybe I'll start that new venture," or "things may improve." He never fully committed his efforts to these prospects, and his harvest matched his hesitancy, partial triumphs that faded before full bloom. The cosmos reflects your assurance. When you approach your desires with the same specific determination as a gardener cultivating delicate seeds, the soil of endless possibilities cannot help but respond. This is not simply hoping or wishing. It is known with certainty that a planted seed carries the entire blueprint of a flower. Joy is the water that sustains spiritual seeds. When you link your intentions with true enjoyment rather than fear or desperation, you create the most favorable conditions for manifestation. Your smile transforms into sunlight, your faith into healthy soil, and your persistent attention into the steady rain that promotes growth. The law of attraction is inherent in this natural process. When properly cared for, a sunflower seed cannot help but grow into a sunflower. Your firmly held intentions, accompanied by joyful expectation, must manifest in accordance with their nature. This isn't magic. It is the everyday wonder of universal law manifesting itself through your focused awareness. Practice. Find a quiet moment and enter a condition of serene awareness. Bring to mind your most cherished purpose, the dream that most closely aligns with your heart's truth. Consider this aim to be a perfect seed sitting in dark, fertile soil. Feel the warmth of the divine sunlight already approaching. The dampness of universal love envelopes it. Allow a genuine smile to emerge as you experience the seed come into life. Know with the confidence of nature that your intention is already growing and seeking manifestation under the eternal sun of consciousness. Chapter 9. The Power of Continuous Turning. Opal paced her garden every day in a small mountain community, frustrated by the lifeless dirt that lay before her. Every morning, she checked the soil where she had planted her beloved roses, looking for signs of life. "Nothing is happening," she would murmur to herself, her impatience building like shadows at dark. Yet, underneath the peaceful surface, innumerable alterations were taking place in perfect order. The universe cycles between motion and silence, each performing a holy part in the dance of creation. What appears to be passivity to mortal sight frequently conceals the most profound change. Just as winter's apparent death precedes spring's waking, moments of apparent stillness contain the seeds of your future emergence. When you reject stillness, you are opposing the very power that prepares you for growth. The butterfly doesn't rush. It's becoming. Neither does the oak tree hasten its growth. Each follows the guidance of divine timing. Understanding the shift necessitates both activity and rest, movement and pauses. Nelson, a wise soul, resided in the valley below Opal's village, attentive to nature's calm wonders during the day. One morning, he found a cocoon tied to an old fence post. Instead of seeking to hasten its growth, he merely observed and waited. Days passed without any apparent changes. However, Nelson was aware that a miracle was taking place within that silken chamber. The caterpillar does not doubt its demise. It would tell anyone who went by. It surrenders to the darkness, hoping that Nelson's steady study will transform its fundamental core. The truth revealed itself. Transformation is frequently most effective when done in silence. Your spiritual evolution follows the same natural law. There will be times when development seems stalled, when prayers go unanswered, when dreams seem distant. These are not voids to be filled, but hallowed areas where the world operates in ways that your human mind cannot grasp. As Opal's roses surreptitiously extended their roots beneath the soil, Nelson's butterfly quietly reshaped itself within its chrysalis. Even when you are not moving, your progress continues. The pause isn't empty. It is pregnant with possibilities, full of regeneration and alive with potential. Practice. Find a peaceful area where you will not be disturbed. Sit comfortably and close your eyes for 3 minutes. Place your hand on your heart and feel it steady. Rhythm. Allow each beat to remind you that change is an ongoing process. Even when you are completely still, your heartbeat is a whispered promise from the cosmos that development never stops, even in complete quiet. Chapter 10. Dawn After Doubt. In the peaceful dawn, Beatrice knelt in her garden, battling with questions that had plagued her spiritual path. The previous months of meditation and prayer now fell hollow, like echoes in an empty room. As uncertainty seeped through the gaps in her assurance, she lifted her gaze to see the first light breaking through the darkness. The sun's rise communicated without words. Each beam penetrated the shadows without shoving them away, simply by being light. In that moment, Beatrice realized her skepticism was not an enemy to be defeated, but rather the essential darkness that enabled illumination. Universal wisdom speaks. Thus, skepticism serves as a sacred barrier between blind trust and proper knowledge. When uncertainty occurs, it does not derail your course, but rather strengthens your conviction like a sword sharpened in fire. Belief must pass through the flames of questioning to emerge indestructible, just as light exists because of darkness. Uncertainty leads to wisdom. Your questions are not indicative of weakness. They are the very tools that the cosmos uses to create deeper pathways for truth to flow. When doubt develops, it signifies an impending breakthrough, because it is always the darkest before dawn within consciousness. Clark sat in a hamlet square with his childhood friend Thomas, their laughter echoing across the cobblestones. They revealed their spiritual problems, including times when faith seemed like a distant shore. What had previously felt like failures now created joy amongst them. Their united laughter changed old grief into light, demonstrating how time alchemy translates every experience into wisdom. This modest scene reveals a timeless truth. When you can smile about your past hardships, you have thoroughly incorporated their lessons. Humor becomes the ultimate form of acceptance. Washing away the last remains of resistance to your current doubts creates stepping stones for tomorrow. Every question mark in your heart will transform into an exclamation of comprehension. The cosmos does not urge you to avoid ambiguity, but to embrace it as a dedicated servant of greater knowledge and sacred practice. Find a quiet place and reflect on one worry that is interfering with your spiritual journey. Hold it lightly in your consciousness while saying these words. Blessed is this ambiguity, because it leads me to a more profound truth. I thank my doubt for being the darkness that characterizes my approaching light. Allow calm to fill the area where strife formerly existed. Part 2. Deepening Trust. Chapter 11. The Voice Within the Silence. Ruth scoured a crowded market for cosmic signals. Every day, She asked for guidance, scanned the people for omens, and examined every coincidence. However, as she gripped, meaning slipped through her fingers like water. She finally gave up one afternoon, tired of her search. Ruth breathed in the area of pure acceptance as she sat beneath an old olive tree. She saw a white feather floating down, not as a sign she had demanded, but as a present she could now accept. When she stopped looking for signs, they started arriving everywhere, in the pattern of leaves, in unexpected encounters, in the rhythm of her own heart. The universe communicates in whispers, not in shouts. Its direction comes freely once you let go of the need to control its arrival. Like a butterfly that only lands on open palm, divine knowledge prefers a peaceful mind and a sensitive heart. Your intuition already knows the path. It sits calmly beneath the noise of searching. Forcing insight generates static, which drowns out the soul's sensitive vibrations. Proper direction demands no effort. It simply appears in the area where trying has ceased. Your inner wisdom blossoms in silence, like flowers blooming before morning. Harold realized this truth while going home one evening. Instead of taking his usual route, he felt a faint tug to an unfamiliar street. Without hesitation, he followed this gentle guidance. There, he met an old buddy who offered him a life-changing opportunity. Had Harold been lost in thought or reluctant to that gentle nudge, this divine appointment would have been overlooked. Every minute, the universe orchestrates an infinite number of possible outcomes. Your duty is not to push their revelation, but to be receptive to how they unfold. When you trust your instincts, life flows beautifully. No amount of planning could succeed. Your inner wisdom is most evident in the pauses between thoughts. It requires no validation, analysis, or proof. Spiritual guidance occurs in the quiet pauses of surrender, just as melody emerges from the space between musical notes. Sacred practice. Assume a comfortable position and close your eyes. Draw 3 deep breaths, releasing all questions and expectations. Recline in silence for a few moments. Take note of the first serene notion that comes to mind. This is Spirit's voice, ready to be heard. Trust what comes without bias or interpretation. The more silent you become, the clearer wisdom speaks. Chapter 12. Harmony with the Unknown. Vera stood at the crossroads, where 3 paths separated into the morning mist. Her old self would have frozen, paralyzed by the urge to make the ideal choice. But something had changed within her spirit. Instead of anxiety, she experienced a strange lightness, as if uncertainty had become a trusted friend. The unknown spreads before you like an unfinished narrative. Most people spend their lives attempting to plan out every chapter in advance, forgetting that the best experiences come from leaving areas free to divine imagination. When you let go of your grip on certainty, the cosmos is free to exceed your restricted goals with its unlimited possibilities. Trust does not imply the lack of unknowns. It represents the existence of faith, despite them. Each step into the unknown permits the road to build beneath your feet, like invisible bridges that appear only as you move forward. The cosmos delights in surprising those who are willing to follow its flow. Curtis found this fact while roaming across distant regions with only a modest bag and an open heart. He was welcomed into the houses of strangers, who quickly became family. No itinerary could have created such exquisite moments of bonding by giving in to the wonder of each day. He asked synchronicity to lead his voyage. What appears to be chaos from below exposes itself as sacred order when viewed from a higher consciousness, much like clouds that appear random until you rise above them to see their flawless patterns. Life's uncertainties have hidden harmony. Your role is to trust the weaver rather than manage the pattern. Mystery isn't your adversary. It is the place where miracles happen. Just like a seed requires darkness to germinate, your most profound transformations frequently emerge from a fertile emptiness of not knowing. When you accept uncertainty as a cocoon of transformation, fear gives way to wonder. The universe works with limitless possibilities, not restricted probabilities. Release your need to forecast every result. You enable divine intelligence to orchestrate events beyond your comprehension. Your openness serves as an invitation for grace to enter through unexpected doors. Sacred practice. Take a moment to reflect on any uncertainties in your life. Instead of attempting to solve it, observe it with gentle curiosity. Speak quietly. I bless the unknown. Smile at the gap between plans. It's filled with marvels. Allow this blessing to be your surrender to the wonder of love, to dance alongside those who follow its lead. Chapter 13. The Gravity of Gratitude. A weaver sat at her loom in the gentle morning light. Her hands trembled before the empty frame. For 40 years, Elsie has created tapestries using rigid patterns passed down through generations. But today, when she grabbed for her usual strands, something in her soul stirred. Instead of rejecting the strange experience, she expressed gratitude for her uncertainty with every breath of thankfulness. Her shaky hands became steady as she began weaving without her regular pattern. Colors blended together in ways she never imagined. What emerged was more lovely than anything she had previously done. The universe speaks in the language of change, but we frequently mistake its voice for chaos. When you tune your spirit to thankfulness, each shift shows its underlying order. The divine, like a master choreographer, carefully orchestrates each moment. Even those that appear random serve a sacred purpose. Gratitude affects your attitude toward change. It functions as an alchemical force, transforming what seems to be disorder into a perfectly timed dance. When you thank the universe for both its blessings and its obstacles, you are aligned with the natural flow of life's events. Leonard started writing letters of gratitude every morning in his tranquil village. "Thank you for the uncertainty," he said. One day, "Thank you for not knowing what happens next." Soon after, a stranger appeared at his home, offering him an opportunity he could never have anticipated. The next day, he expressed gratitude for surprise, and each letter brought additional blessings. Leonard noticed life and responded with growing synchrony. His gratitude became a magnet, attracting new experiences worthy of praise. During the changing seasons of your life, the unknown is transformed from a source of concern into an adventure of discovery. Gratitude acts as a source of tranquility. It does not prevent change from occurring. Instead, it helps you discover the underlying harmony in transformation. A conductor who knows every note benefits the orchestra. Thankfulness enables you to trust in the broader context of your experience. When you receive genuine acknowledgement, your resistance to change vanishes. Each thank you bridges a gap between what was and what is to come. This is the divine alchemy of thanksgiving. It displays the order concealed inside the apparent chaos. Allow your heart to become a channel of thanksgiving, particularly during times of uncertainty. For it is frequently in the gaps between your goals that the universe places its most valuable gifts. Sacred practice. As you put your head on your pillow tonight, recall the happenings of the day, both certain and questionable ones. Thank you for the occasions that challenge you. Thank the unexpected turns. Thank you, even for the misunderstanding, for it bears wisdom that has yet be disclosed. Feel how appreciation promotes harmony to everyone who appears dissonant. Allow appreciation to be the lullaby that carries you into tomorrow's becoming. Before we begin the next chapter, you may acquire a free ebook edition of this audiobook by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. Watch this video. Chapter 14. Forgiveness is seen as an evolutionary process. Glenda carried her fury like priceless stones in a large pouch through a little village surrounded by old hills. Every morning, she would mentally count these grievances. Her sister broke her confidence. the friend who spoke negatively of her name, the sweetheart who chose a different route. She believed that these memories kept her secure from future danger. However, as the seasons changed, Glenda discovered that her shoulders ached from this invisible burden. The weight of unforgiveness had etched lines in her spirit, dimming the light in her eyes. One autumn morning, while tending her garden, she noticed a dove release a twig it had carried, soaring higher without it. The universe talks in whispers. Glenda finally understood. Forgiveness was never about the other person. It was about retrieving the energy she had stored away in the past that no longer served her current needs. When you cling to grudges, you bind your creative drive to an outdated narrative. Each grudge serves as an anchor, keeping you anchored to waters you've already explored. The skill of forgiveness is not in absolving the action, but in freeing yourself from its emotional hold. Consider unforgiveness as a closed fist. Nothing new can enter while you grip what is gone. Only by opening your palm does fresh abundance find a place to settle. This is the mystical alchemy of release. It converts sluggish energy into flowing potential. Edwin had held a grudge against his former business colleague for 20 years in another city. The betrayal had become a part of his identity, a story he told at every meeting until one morning, weary by the repetition, he let it go. The tight narrative disintegrated, much like ice melting in spring, and time felt fluid again. New opportunities emerged as if they had been waiting patiently for him to make room for their arrival. Edwin's emancipation demonstrates that forgiveness serves as a quantum reset. It does not alter the past, but rather affects the way energy moves through your present. When you free someone from the confines of your judgment, you realize you have the only key to your own cell. Forgiveness is more potent than forgetting because it involves choosing freedom over familiar suffering. Each act of letting go replenishes your creative wellspring. It's an energetic upgrade that allows you to redirect strength that would otherwise be spent on healing past wounds into generating new dreams. Close your eyes. Imagine the person you need to forgive, bathed in light and whispering. We are both free. Chapter 15. The Bridge Between Thought and Reality. Harriet, a weaver from a small village, spent her days producing elaborate tapestries, meticulously selecting and placing each thread. However, her life felt convoluted, with disappointments and unrealized goals. One morning, as sunlight streamed through her workshop window, she noticed how it converted ordinary dust motes into dancing golden specks. This basic observation prompted an understanding. Reality varied based on how she experienced it on a day-to-day basis. Harriet began weaving new thoughts into the fabric of her brain, where she had previously seen competition. She decided to see inspiration where scarcity was looming. She actively focused on abundance, as if it were a magical phenomenon. Her workshop began to draw interested visitors, each of whom brought her unexpected chances. The universe serves as a giant mirror, reflecting the essence of your thoughts with unflinching precision. Every moment presents an opportunity to perceive through the lens of scarcity or possibility. This decision influences not only your perception, but the fundamental substance of your experience. Boyd, a fruit vendor from the lively marketplace across town, had seen better days. Instead of regretting his situation, he began each morning by stating, "Joy fills my heart and prosperity flows naturally to me." Even though nothing changed immediately, he persisted in his practice cheerfully. Within weeks, Boyd noted tiny changes. Customers lingered longer to stand, lured in by his genuine kindness. Children stopped to share stories, and their laughter drew additional customers. His fruit appeared to remain fresher, and his revenues increased steadily. The outside world had started dancing to the tune of his internal song. This ancient law illustrates how consciousness shapes reality, much like a potter shapes clay. Your ideas are active creators, constantly shaping your reality, rather than passive spectators. When you change your mental state, The universe must respond in kind, for this is the permanent agreement between mind and matter. The world you see is fluid, waiting for your conscious guidance. Each thought causes ripples in the fabric of reality, drawing situations that match its frequency. Boyd discovered that you don't need evidence to choose superior thoughts. Your chosen thoughts will produce their own evidence. According to ancient wisdom, everything you see began as an invisible thought. Your intellect is the ultimate artist. Paint reality with the colors of your consciousness. Every circumstance you face is a mirror of the thoughts and beliefs you've developed. The practice: find a peaceful moment and allow yourself to relax into silence. Choose a belief that you wish were true. Maybe I am deeply loved, or abundance comes naturally to me. State this truth as if it already exists, feeling its actuality in your bones. Allow this vibration to resonate through your being, knowing that the universe is already reshaping itself to match your new frequency. Chapter 16. Flowing alongside others. In a little community surrounded by old hills, he tended her garden every morning, accompanied by the sounds of her neighbors' complaints floating across the fence. Day after day, she absorbed the harsh words about her overhanging branches and stray leaves. She felt tightness build up in her chest until one morning something changed. Instead of defending or withdrawing, he paused and listened to the passion that flowed behind the words. In that place of pure concentration, she noticed a lonely quiver in her neighbor's voice, as well as the fear of anarchy indicated by the scattered leaves. She started to understand. When you tune into the frequency of understanding, the cosmos reveals hidden bridges between hearts. Much like a pond reflecting the sky, consciousness mirrors itself. Your thoughts create harmony or discord. The law of resonance states that whatever you send into the world will be multiplied. When you decide to listen beyond the surface disturbance, you have access to the peaceful waters that connect all beings. This is a sacred area where transformation occurs through the acknowledgement of shared light rather than force. Frank realized this reality in his own unique way in the marketplace across town, when he stopped approaching disagreements with ready arguments and instead approached them with gentle curiosity. What lies beneath the words? He wondered, and while I was pondering, something spectacular happened. The baker, who had always been upset about Frank's early delivery, softened when Frank inquired about his family. The tension that had been building for months was relieved in a moment of shared humanity. No words of conflict were required, only a desire to look beyond the surface. This is your hidden power, the ability to transform every interaction simply by being there. When you let go of the desire to defend, fight, or show oneself correct, you provide room for understanding to grow spontaneously, much like water running over boulders in a stream. When resistance is removed, harmony follows its own path. Every meeting is an opportunity to practice the ancient art of listening with the heart, as the universe communicates to us. Each person you meet serves as a mirror, reflecting back the energy you create by choosing to tune your consciousness to deeper vibrations. You become a tuning fork for peace. Sacred practice as you go about your day. Imagine that everyone you meet contains the same divine light within them that you do. Observe the shared glow underlying their words, movements, and expressions. Consider how this simple shift in perspective alters your encounters, softening hard edges and uncovering the shared ground that has always been there. Let each contact serve as an opportunity to identify the one light that manifests itself in various ways. Everyday Signs, Chapter 17 Messages. In a little mountain community, Sylvia traveled the twisting way to her garden. Every morning, her eyes gradually opened to the subtle language of nature. First came the dragonflies, 3 of them dancing in perfect formation as she considered a career shift. The number 444 then appeared everywhere, including registration plates, receipts, and even the arrangement of stones along her path. What appeared to be random happenings gradually began to develop a pattern, a spiritual dialogue between her consciousness and the infinite. The universe communicates in whispers, using the language of synchronicity to direct those who learn to listen. Each symbol conveys meaning. Every coincidence has meaning, and every chance encounter acts as a marker on your spiritual journey. When you align with this global flow, life turns from a sequence of unrelated events into a choreographed dance with divine timing. Numbers, animals, overheard conversations, and radio melodies are all examples of cosmic guidance flowing through the topography of your experience, just as water does. These become the alphabet for divine communication. The idea is to allow meaning to emerge from your inner understanding rather than forcing interpretation. Consider Percy, who was at the crossroads of two life pathways. His mind became confused with uncertainty as he sat in contemplation beneath an old oak tree. A solitary white feather spiraled down, gently landing at his feet. At that point, clarity rushed over him like dawn light. The feather was more than simply a feather. It represented confirmation, a soothing reassurance from the cosmos that he was safe and led. Those with an open heart and a serene mind are most capable of understanding this language of synchronicity. When you let go of the desire to control every outcome, you make room for spiritual direction to enter. The universe's messages arrive not by demand, but through submission, force, and faith. You're already proficient in this cosmic discussion. Your spirit recalls this ancient conversation. When you see a recurrent sign or have a meaningful coincidence, you are receiving a love letter from the infinite. These indicators are continually waiting to be identified, providing guidance, comfort, and confirmation that you are walking in accordance with global wisdom. Allow your awareness to grow beyond the obvious and welcome the subtle ways Spirit speaks. Observe the patterns that emerge. The timing seems too perfect to be accidental. The answers arrive in unexpected ways. Trust that when you need guidance, the universe will speak to you in ways that your heart can grasp. Sign recognition has been practiced since antiquity. Ask the cosmos for a sign of comfort today. Then relax and let it appear spontaneously. Allow yourself to be surprised by its appearance. Divine wisdom understands the best approach to contact you. Your sign can appear to be a repeated number sequence, an animal messenger, a timely communication from a stranger, or something truly special to you. The goal is to remain open and responsive throughout your day, knowing that wisdom will come at the right time. Chapter 18, Season of Rest and Renewal. Cliff stood in a noisy marketplace, surrounded by merchants and vendors, his shoulders heavy with fatigue. He would rise before dawn every morning to manufacture his wares, working hard until the night sky was speckled with stars. Despite his tireless efforts, riches seemed to elude him. Cliff collapsed beneath an antique olive tree one evening, exhausted. In his fevered visions, the tree murmured wisdom passed down to the generations. The seed does not dispute its existence in the darkness. The moon makes no apology for its fading phase. So, why are you resisting your season of rest? The universe communicates via the language of energy. When exhaustion seeps into your bones, it sends a message as sacred as any vision or sign. Rest is not the same as not making any progress. It serves as a foundation for all creation. Just as night refills day, winter supports spring's emergence. Your intervals of stillness nourish the source of your power. Consider how a field needs to be left fallow to regain its fertility. The same law guides your spirit. Seasons. When you acknowledge your need for healing, you align with nature's inner rhythm. The ancients knew this reality. Force generates resistance, whereas surrender encourages flow. Flora, a woman who had spent endless evenings pondering her life's direction, came across this insight unexpectedly, following months of thought loops that led nowhere. Her body stopped one afternoon as she fell into an unintended nap. Upon waking, The knots of overthinking quietly unravel themselves. The route ahead is outlined with extraordinary clarity, not because she had solved anything, but because she had allowed herself to rest. Your worth is not in constant motion. The cosmos values wisdom and understanding when to rest rather than endless doing. Each time you actively relax, you display trust in the larger flow of life, much like a river that pools in tranquil eddies before continuing its journey. Your times of stillness build strength for what comes ahead, an ancient practice. Find a comfortable area where you will not be disturbed. Lie down or sit quietly with one hand on your heart. Take deep breaths and whisper these words. I give myself freedom to rest without explanation. This pause represents my sacred harmony with global time. Maintain the state of conscious relaxation for as long as your spirit requires, recognizing that this, too, is part of your spiritual development. Chapter 19. Compassion in the Mirror. Delia spent her days caring for visitors to her tiny inn in the calm hills beyond the hamlet. Each visitor who passed their door had some annoying characteristic. Someone spoke too loudly, another moaned incessantly about the weather, and a third never appeared content with his morning meal. Her judgment of their flaws grew heavier with each passing day, until it weighed like a stone on her heart. One evening, while she sat beneath the ancient oak tree, a wise woman approached and offered her a cup of tea. Each troubled face, the woman whispered, mirrors a mirror you've forgotten to look into. In that instant, Delia noticed how the loudly shouted guest echoed her own unsaid voice. The weather complainer represented her own resistance to life's natural flow. At the same time, the dissatisfied breakfast visitor echoed her own inner need for fulfillment. When you encounter those whose actions disrupt your peace, remember that the universe has placed a precious reflection before you. Each person acts as a messenger, showing areas of oneself that require attention and healing. Your annoyance becomes your instructor. Your judgment becomes a map that leads back to your own heart. Maurice, the village storyteller, realized this reality after reviewers sharply criticized the stories as simplistic. The word stung for days until he saw in the critic's severity his own self-doubt speaking. With this realization, he began to relate stories with greater authenticity. His voice became stronger as he stopped seeking acceptance and instead shared his most profound truth. His stories were more captivating precisely because he had accepted the lesson contained beneath criticism. The art of compassionate perception demonstrates that every interaction presents an opportunity for self-discovery. When someone makes you uncomfortable, they reveal a part of yourself that craves attention and love. Your reaction becomes your guide, pointing to internal wounds that are ready to heal. When you realize that everyone in front of you bears a bit of your own mirror, judgment melts easily. The person who irritates you may be revealing where your anger still resides. The one who appears weak may represent how you have repressed your own fragility. In this sense, each meeting becomes a gateway to greater self-awareness and healing. When faced with conflict, it is an ancient practice to halt and gaze inward. Look at the other person with kind eyes and softly bless them. May you feel whole. Feel these words erode the barriers between you, and watch as serenity slowly returns to your heart. This simple meditation transforms judgment into comprehension, exposing the mystical bond that connects all beings in the dance of healing and progress. Chapter 20. The Golden Thread of Purpose. Lottie worked in a little mountain community, pouring tea to weary travelers. Until the morning, each cup felt empty and useless. She recognized something remarkable. The woman bawling into her camel supper had experienced the same heartbreak that Lottie had years ago. Lottie told her story without thinking twice. The woman's eyes brightened with hope. That moment altered everything. Life communicates through your experiences, creating a tapestry of insight unique to your journey. What appears to be a random difficulty today becomes tomorrow's medicine for another's recovery. This is how the purpose works, not as a distant goal, but as an ongoing dialogue between your development and the world's needs. Every challenge you've experienced has been preparation, every victory a lesson in possibilities, and every failure a lesson in compassion. The universe does not waste anything in an awakening curriculum. Your hardships have served as preparation rather than punishment. Your confusion was not pointless. However, understanding emerges from the very soil. In a crowded marketplace, I sold bright fabrics without delight, until the day he spotted children dancing in the sunlight, their happiness flowing through his hanging fabrics, reminded him that a profession was about creating beauty rather than selling cloth. He started arranging his materials like art pieces, and his stall quickly became known as a rainbow corner. His business thrived not because he changed what he did, but because he allowed joy to guide his approach. When you align with the natural flow of your gifts, joy emerges as a compass pointing to your destiny. It is not the weighty sense of obligation that society frequently confuses with purpose. Still, it is the lightness of being that arises when your actual nature finds genuine expression. Your path will reveal itself not through huge visions or dramatic revelations, but by the calm persistence of what makes you alive. The hobbies that cost you time, conversations that energize you, and work that feels like play. These are crumbs that will take you back to your destination. The significance of your trip cannot be pushed or determined. It can only be fully discovered by experiencing it. Trust in the flow of life, like a river making its way to the sea, leads to the discovery of your true purpose. Moving through you, an ancient practice. Find a peaceful moment and allow yourself to relax into silence. Put one hand on your heart and ask gently, how does life express itself through me? Now, observe what sensations, images, or insights arise. Follow the feeling of aliveness. It knows the path. Part 3, The Light That Remains. Chapter 21, Faith Goes Beyond Evidence. Marjorie was tending her garden in a secluded valley, although no sprouts had yet emerged from the dirt. Every morning, she watered the barren ground, speaking tenderly to the seedlings beneath. Neighbors questioned her dedication to bare earth, but she persisted in her painstaking ministrations, sensing the life moving beneath. The universe works through vibration before manifesting. Like a gardener who waters seedlings when they're still sleeping in the dark, your conviction creates the energetic circumstances that allow for emergence. What others see as empty space is, to the attuned heart, a field complete of possibilities. Each thought you have creates a frequency that influences the quantum field around you. When you retain steadfast confidence in the face of apparent absence, you are building the bridge that will allow your goals to manifest. This is not mindless faith, but knowing involvement in the laws of creation. Calvin had been trying to establish his healing practice in a distant place for quite some time. For months, he pushed and fought to create openings. However, the instant he let go of his control over how and when success would arrive, synchronicity began to dance. A serendipitous chat led to the ideal spot. A past client recommended him to the entire community. What opposition had prevented surrender, allowed to flow organically into place? The evidence of things unseen begins as an inner knowing, a peaceful assurance that eliminates the need for external proof. This is not about convincing yourself that something isn't true, but about harmonizing with what is already true at the causal level reality. As electricity flows along a wire before the light shines your steadfast belief, so does the energy of manifestation. When you stand firmly in the vibration of knowing, reality has no choice but to mirror that same confidence. This is the law of resonance at work. Like while belief attracts confirmation, trust attracts trust, worthiness, an ancient practice. Find your center and whisper these powerful words. I believe because I feel the truth. Allow this peaceful certainty. Anchor the invisible into existence. Feel how your conviction serves as a bridge between the invisible and visible domains. Chapter 22. The Sacred Ordinary. Virginia stood by her kitchen window, a basket of fresh laundry in front of her, while sunlight streamed through the glass. She observed how each fold cast shadows that danced over the fabric. For years, she had hurried through these tasks. Her thoughts were constantly racing toward the next moment. But this morning, something changed. The universe communicates through the commonplace, offering wisdom in life's most basic moments. When you approach ordinary duties with sacred attentiveness, they transcend from prosaic obligations to opportunities for connection with the divine. Every movement becomes a prayer. Each breath is a sacrifice to the divine. Virginia noticed that as she folded each piece with her complete presence, time appeared to stand still. The smooth cotton beneath her fingertips, the rhythmic motion of her palms, and the fresh aroma coming from the cloth all served as doorways to deeper awareness. She found herself in a state of tranquil meditation, her entire being focused on the simple task of bringing order out of chaos. The same reality was disclosed to Dewey. One rainy afternoon, while heavy clouds dumped water on the front porch, he took his broom to dance with nature's purification rather than resist it. The sound of bristles striking wood mingled with the beat of raindrops. As raindrops fell, steam rose from the sun-warmed timbers. And at this regular moment, Dewey encountered something exceptional, the absolute satisfaction of being completely present. What these stories reveal is profound but simple. Divinity does not necessitate grand gestures or complicated rites. It exists in the pauses between breaths, in the deliberate completion of life's most basic chores. When you devote your full concentration to any task, no matter how minor, you create a channel to the infinite. The sacred does not exist solely in temples or on mountaintops. It lives in your kitchen and washes dishes in your garden. As you tend to plants in the quiet moments of folding warm clothing straight from the dryer, these are not jobs to complete quickly on the way to something more essential. They are the significant events themselves. Each one is an invitation to encounter the divine in the details. Practice. Choose one basic chore today and turn it into a meditation. Bring your complete attention to whatever you're doing, whether it's washing your hands, making a meal, or tidying up. Observe the sensations, movements, and subtle energies at work. Allow yourself to be fully present in the moment, treating each activity as a sacred ceremony. Watch as the ordinary begins to sparkle with astonishing brilliance. Chapter 23 explores the potency of unspoken words. Eleanor stood behind her modest kiosk in the middle of a crowded market, watching customers pass by. Every day, she watched how her silent judgments of others appear to form invisible barriers. Her sincere gratitude drew others in without saying a word. Her ideas wove threads of harmony or discord into the fabric of her encounters. The universe communicates in the language of vibration. Your ideas spread outward, like ripples on still water, exerting an unseen influence on everything they contact. Each mental whisper can cure or damage, to combine or divide. When you hold someone in the light of loving awareness, the energy goes through space and time, reaching them in ways that words cannot. This fundamental principle of consciousness explains why some individuals feel immediately at ease in your company, while others remain cautious. It describes how certain people can change the vibe of a room even when they haven't said a word. Your ideas about people generate an energy field that they perceive intuitively, responding to your unspoken broadcast. Consider how frequently you've learned someone's opinion of you without them saying it explicitly. The same principle is continuously operating within you. Your mental attitude towards people manifests as a subtle force that either fills or depletes the space between you and them. Felix realized this truth following a particularly stressful week at his workplace. Instead of attempting to resolve exterior disputes, he started silently blessing each co-worker with thoughts of peace and goodwill. Within days, the office mood had changed. Conversations moved more easily. Cooperation grew, and solutions emerged organically. He had not changed anything but the quality of his own ideas about others. This notion applies beyond individual interactions and into the collective field of consciousness. When you think in terms of harmony and understanding, you contribute to the overall peaceful progress. Every compassionate thought creates healing ripples around the planet, whilst every harsh judgment adds to humanity's woes. The strength of wordless communication reminds us that we are all connected by our shared consciousness. No notion is genuinely private. Its essence touches a united field we all share. This awareness encourages us to care more carefully for our mental gardens, knowing that our ideas are always reaching out to others in subtle but significant ways. Practice while you go about your day. Choose one person in your life and think about them with genuine appreciation. Do not express these thoughts aloud or try to demonstrate them through behavior. Maintain a pure, loving consciousness toward them. Notice how the nature of your relationship organically alters and deepens as a result of this quiet blessing. In this way, you'll see directly how consciousness fosters intimacy beyond words. Chapter 24, Rebirth Through Self-Love. Flowers abound throughout the garden. I've spent years caring for every blossom but herself. Every morning, she poured love into growing plants and comforting friends. In contrast, her own spirit yearned for the same care she generously gave to others. Until one morning, as she saw a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis, wisdom awakened in her heart. The most sacred relationship you will ever have is with yourself. Many souls pass through lives, learning to nurture others while carrying internal criticism that dims their light. But the universe reveals an eternal truth. You cannot fully contribute if you have not first given yourself. Self-love isn't vanity. It serves as a foundation for spiritual enlightenment. When you eventually turn the light of acceptance inside, each cell in your body recognizes its heavenly birth. This remembering generates a frequency of wholeness, which naturally draws more beauty, abundance, and grace into your life. Imagine your consciousness as a garden. The thoughts you have about yourself grow into the reality you experience. Each moment of self-care creates thorns in your way, whereas each breath of self-acceptance sows seeds of transformation. You embody both the garden and the gardener, the butterfly and the chrysalis. Derek realized this reality in his art studio, where self-doubt had previously muffled his creative voice. Instead of forcing inspiration, he began speaking to himself in the same way that he encouraged fellow artists. Illness supplanted judgment. His paintings gained fresh life. Colors became more brilliant. Forms formed more freely, and his work began to affect people in ways he had never believed possible. His self-esteem had awakened a buried brightness. This principle explains the alchemy of inner transformation. When you let go of the habit of self-judgment, energy that was previously spent on criticism becomes accessible for creation. Your inherent abilities flow naturally because they are no longer hindered by internal restrictions. Self-love is an ongoing process, much like a flower opening to the sun. Gentle acceptance allows your existence to naturally expand. Every time you choose compassion over criticism, more aspect of your inner nature emerges. Practice. Place one hand over your heart and whisper, "I'm learning to appreciate myself in motion." Experience a gentle awakening. Ripple outwardly. Chapter 25. The universe is personal. In a busy marketplace. At a halt in front of a merchant's stall, the brass pendants hanging there reminded her of the identical design she had dreamed about the night before, giving her an unsettling feeling. Her hand trembled when she reached for one. She realized why she had rejected the dream as worthless at the time. The universe communicates in whispers of coincidence. The language of divine timing pervades every moment, whether we are aware of it or not. Each chance encounter, each seemingly random experience, contains seeds of meaning that are waiting to grow in the mind. These are not coincidences, but well-planned moments of awakening. When you start to notice these subtle arrangements, you realize that the universe creates each lesson with exquisite precision, much like a master jeweler choosing the ideal stone. Divine intelligence selects events that will most intimately resonate with your soul's current needs. What appears to be an impediment is frequently a hidden opportunity. What seems to be a delay often protects you from unseen difficulties. The universe never punishes. It just directs, adjusts, and aligns. The canceled meeting made way for a better aligned connection. The missed train led to an encounter that altered your course. Even pain arrives not as a punishment, but as a stimulant for progress. Vernon discovered this truth one morning in gridlock traffic, perfectly timed for your soul's evolution. Initially regretting the delay, he realized the force of his speeding thoughts and began to breathe in the forced silence. Clarity occurred over a decision that had been bothering him for weeks. The traffic gridlock was hardly an inconvenience. It was an invitation to halt and gain understanding. You are continually surrounded by these stage moments. The tune that plays as you ponder your path. The book that opens to the exact insight you require. The stranger's statements echo your inner thoughts. Each is a note in the symphony of synchronicity, played particularly for you. Recognizing these divine arrangements needs only a shift in perception. When you let go of the illusion of randomness, you may witness the intricate ballet of grace moving through your life. Every detail helps you awaken. Every moment arrives precisely on time. An ancient practice. When an annoyance arises today, pause and whisper a prayer. These two are for my highest good. Feel grateful for this moment's ideal placement in the design of your journey. Watch as resistance gives way to an understanding of divine order at work. Chapter 26. Light and Shadow. In the dead of winter, Francine stood in front of her mirror, seeing not only her reflection, but also the parts of herself she had banished to the shadows. For years, she had suppressed her anger, labeling it ugly, until she recognized that this repressed force contained the seeds of her ability to build healthy boundaries. The shadow isn't your enemy. It is the remaining half of wholeness, awaiting recognition. Those qualities you dismiss as unworthy or unspiritual are merely energy seeking unification. Much like a garden that requires both sunlight and shade to thrive. When you move away from aspects of yourself, your consciousness requires the entire spectrum of its nature to bloom fully. You disperse your power. Each feature you deny creates a hidden current that opposes your progressive journey. However, when you pay cautious attention to these elements, they reveal themselves as teachers with forgotten gifts. When you accept your perfectionism, it manifests as a desire for greatness. Befriending your doubt transforms it into knowledgeable discernment. Your fear, when acknowledged with kindness, becomes a protector of what you genuinely value. Lionel realized this reality when he became resentful of others' success. His first reaction was to repress this terrible emotion, to judge himself for experiencing it at all. But when he sat with his jealousy, listening without condemnation, he received a more profound revelation. This power, which he had categorized as bad, was actually highlighting his own untapped creativity, pointing to visions that required his attention. The shadow wants to be seen, not conquered. It whispers via your triggers, judgments, and resistance to answers. Each is a sign pointing to wholeness. When you accept these denied aspects, they no longer require attention. This integration does not involve fighting or forced transformation, but somewhat unconscious behaviors or projected criticism of others. It merely demands your desire to return to what you have previously avoided, to make room for all of you in this acceptance. The shadow knowledge can finally speak its truth, an ancient practice. Take out your journal and write about one trait in yourself that you dislike or condemn. Hold this feature in soft awareness while whispering, "What gift have you hidden from me?" Allow the answer to emerge naturally without forcing it. Notice how acceptance transforms what was once feared into an ally in your awakening. Chapter 27. When Everything Changes. Esther dreamed about her meticulous arrangements late at night. The new company, the correct location, and optimal timing. However, when dawn came, she realized that her key investor had withdrawn, the building she planned to lease had been sold, and her business partner had relocated abroad. In a single morning, the entire foundation of her future appeared to vanish like mist in sunshine. When your plans fail, the universe speaks through upheaval. It indicates not failure, but acceleration. Every collapsing building provides an opportunity for a larger design to emerge. The same power that appears to demolish also carries the seeds of renewal. This is the underlying principle of transformation through disruption. Your aversion to unexpected change derives from the belief that consistency equals safety. True security, however, comes from aligning with universal time rather than clinging to inflexible forms when life dismantles your carefully crafted frameworks. It does so to uplift rather than punish. The collapse of the known produces a vacuum, allowing higher possibilities to emerge that were previously unseen by your restricted vision. Consider how a caterpillar must entirely abandon its form before wings emerge. The cocoon stage seems chaotic. The thing literally dissolves. However, this apparent destruction facilitates eventual release. Your old paradigms must sometimes liquefy for new structures to consolidate. This insight became evident to Clyde Dean when her entire department was rearranged without notice. Instead of resisting, she opted to chuckle, claiming that the cosmos must be redecorating. Her resilience in the face of uncertainty allowed her to adapt to the changes. Within weeks, she found herself in a position significantly more suited to her abilities, one that did not even exist during the turmoil. What appears to be a breakdown is actually a breakthrough. Wearing a disguise, the events that seem to derail your path frequently bring you exactly where you need to be. Energy must sometimes shatter old containers before forming in new, expanded patterns. The goal is to trust the underlying purpose of disruption rather than avoid it. In times of unexpected change, your responsibility is to remain receptive to the knowledge that emerges from ambiguity. Let go of your desire to control the process. Stand in the midst of transformation and watch with interest as new possibilities emerge from what appears to be turmoil. Pause and whisper is an ancient tactic when confronted with an unexpected shift. Even this is grace. Stand calmly in the face of surprise and feel at ease. Reform everything around you. This simple technique unites you with the intellect directing your progress, even if its methods are unknown. Chapter 28. Wholeness Beyond Wanting. Mabel spent years gathering treasures in a remote mountain community, hoping that each new acquisition would bring her full circle. Her cottage was overflowing with priceless stuff. However, a subtle emptiness lingered one morning as sunshine rushed through her window, spreading golden rays on her collection. She realized how the light itself provided more beauty than anything. In that moment of clarity, Mabel realized that perfection was not something she could achieve. This was her natural state. The objects around her shifted from requirements to playful representations of life's abundance. She began arranging her possessions, not to fill a gap, but to celebrate the fullness that was already there in her heart. The universe communicates through paradoxes. When you realize nothing is missing, everything becomes feasible. Your desire stems not from a shortage, but from a creative force that flows through you. Each request is a sacred invitation to dance with the infinite, rather than a desperate search for wholeness in the midst of a crowded market. Irving passed several vendors selling unusual products. For years, he had pursued success, believing that it resided in continuous acquisition and achievement. But today was different. He paused to watch youngsters play with simple wooden toys. Their laughing echoed with sheer excitement. Something changed Irving's perception. He realized that contentment did not await the completion of his next task. It was available at the exact moment. As the truth sank into his bones, unexpected opportunities began to emerge before him. His firm thrived not because he worked harder, but because he functioned from a state of serene satisfaction. Sages whispered the secret. Abundance flows readily when you stop chasing it from nothingness. Your contentment becomes a magnet, drawing situations that reflect your inner level fulfillment. When you let go of the illusion that something is lacking, you open yourself up to receive life's inexhaustible blessings. The cosmos enjoys your joy, not your effort. Every desire might stem from pleasure rather than necessity. This shifts manifestation from a frantic attempt to a playful exploration of possibility. Your richness grows not through continual wanting, but through heartfelt appreciation for what already exists. Practice. Sit in a quiet place and take deep breaths. Allow your awareness to rest on all that is already there in your life. Feel thankfulness rise organically, without force or effort. Allow joy to spring up from within, creating a wordless prayer to the universe. In this area of admiration, you ignite the most powerful magnetic force, realization of your intrinsic fullness. Chapter 29. The Circle of Renewal. Patricia cared for roses in a historic garden where seasons painted their endless dance. Each falling petal used to make her sad until she realized how it fertilized the earth for future blossoms. Her peaceful observation revealed a deeper insight. Nothing truly ends. Instead, it evolves into the following expression. Life travels in sacred circles rather than straight lines. You may observe that this pattern reflects everywhere. Once your eyes become accustomed to its existence, each farewell contains the seed of a new hello. Each sunset foreshadows the next sunrise. The universe communicates in circles, not in endings. When change appears to be closing a chapter, take a closer look. Every completion contains an opportunity to start again. Your relationships evolve. Dreams morph and paths change, not to end your adventure, but to lead you deeper into insight. Floyd walked through his childhood neighborhood, expecting memories to ache from loss. Instead, he found peace in how well that chapter accomplished its function. The old corner store. He formerly played on this playground. They were not relics of a bygone era, but markers of a wonderfully completed cycle. In that moment, he realized how nostalgia evolves into gratitude. When we observe the perfection of life cycles, we reach a moment in our own spiral of development. What appears to be an end is actually the arc of life's cycle becoming revealed. Trust that each completion creates space for what is meant to emerge through you next. The universe never actually ends. It only transforms. Feel how your own story unfolds in this circular dance. Relationships appear to be ending. It has shaped your capacity for love. Dreams that seem to disappear. It has sparked fresh ideas. Every experience comes full circle when its wisdom is completely grasped. Practice. Sit silently and recall one cycle in your life that has fulfilled its course. It could be a relationship, a project, or a stage of personal development. Speak openly. Thank you for completing your beautiful circle with me. Take note of the new energy that arises within you. What new beginnings are already whispering in your heart? Allow the spiral of life to continue its magnificent dance within you. Chapter 30. Everything is changing in a little garden on the outskirts of town. Faith sits quietly, contemplating the seasonal changes around her. For years, she had avoided life's natural oscillations, seeking stability in the familiar, yet unknown. However, as fall leaves spiral down before her, she observes a great truth emerge. The consistency she sought is inherent in change. The universe communicates to us in cycles of renewal, telling us that transformation is not our enemy, but rather our most constant companion. Each shift, transition, and moment of becoming contains the seeds of divine order. When you align with this timeless dance, resistance transforms into acceptance, which blossoms into peace. Waves cannot exist without motion. Life cannot exist without change. Embracing this fluid nature, rather than battling it, allows your consciousness to expand. Every termination leads to a new beginning. Every release allows rejuvenation. This is a divine beat of life in a nearby garden. A bird spends weeks observing chrysalis. His patience is rewarded as nature offers its most profound lesson with the emergence of the butterfly. He sees that nothing genuinely dies. It simply transforms. What looks to be a loss is actually life reinventing itself into new forms of beauty. The caterpillar does not cease to exist. It becomes more than it was previously. This truth rings throughout all of creation. In evolutionary terms, change is an ally rather than an adversary. When you oppose metamorphosis, you are opposing the very power that seeks to elevate you. When you embrace change, you realize that it is the constant you've been looking for all along. Spiritual mastery does not imply managing life's flow. Instead, it means learning to move in sync with it, like a leaf swept by the wind. As you embrace change, you align with the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies. You become one with the power that transforms seeds into trees and aspirations into realities. Through faith's acceptance and birth's revelation, we gain insight into the ultimate wisdom. Everything is in motion because everything is alive. Your duty is not to halt the flow, but to trust it, understanding that each shift brings you closer to your ultimate manifestation. Practice. Before falling asleep, whisper gently, "Everything is changing, and so am I in love." Feel the truth settle like light in your breast. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I've developed a free ebook edition for you. You can get it from the link in the pinned remark. Conclusion. Change has quietly worked in you while you listened, reflected, and breathed through these chapters. You now understand that transformation is a rhythm, not an event. The inhale and exhale of your limitless becoming life are not collapsing. It is a regenerate sitting through you. The universe communicates through synchrony in motion and subtle variations in thought. Each moment speaks ancient wisdom, guiding you into harmony with the timeless dance of creation. Your consciousness expands beyond what was previously thought conceivable, embracing the sacred cycle of constant renewal. Every fresh version of you was written with divine timing, and this moment arrived just as wonderfully. The way is revealed not by coercion, but through resignation to the natural order of spiritual development. Your trip has been a spiral of awakening. Each turn brings you closer to the truth, which has always existed within you. Maintain an unshakable faith. There is no backward road, only forward motion with remembering and grace. The wisdom you've accumulated is not knowledge gained, but truth recalled, the memory of your own divine essence as it unfolds over time. Allow this message to be repeated every morning. You're changing, extending, and embodying the bright truth that started this adventure. The light you seek has always existed within you, becoming more colorful with each conscious breath. Your metamorphosis continues, not as a goal to achieve, but as a song to sing with each heartbeat. Everything is changing, which is the most comforting thought of all. For in this unending dance of being, you will discover your true home not in stillness, but in the sacred motion of life itself. If you enjoyed this unique audiobook, I have handpicked the next book that will alter your life.